All right. So, Robert tells me that you all are here to learn some tips and tricks for your touchscreen models. Today, I've prepared a couple of my favorite ease of life features that we get once we have a touchscreen model. There's all sorts of stuff you can do, and we're only going to be able to touch on a tiny portion of it today because there's so much you can do. But we're going to focus on about three different kind of subjects. And what I wanted to first focus on was our custom buttons. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail about these. Robert did just do a whole workshop on your custom buttons a couple months ago, so that's on our Patreon and our YouTube. If you have any further questions about this subject, just let me know or search for it on YouTube. I don't know off the top of my head what that video is called, but I'm sure it's something along with Custom Button Workshop. So, where are the custom buttons? They are located on the panel with your power button, all the way on the bottom left corner of the instrument. They are those 1 through 5 buttons if you're on the instrument I'm on. Some instruments have a 1 and 2, or a 1, 2, 3, or a 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm playing on a Symphony today, which is in a Sterling cabinet, so Sterling, Symphony, Patriot. If you have one of those models, you'll have 1 through 5 on them. So custom number 1, what that does, and I have my screen up here, so hopefully everything I do, you'll more or less be able to see better. Custom number 1 brings up your background list. If you're on the A series that I'm on here, the Symphony, I get a list of all of my backgrounds. Say hi to Andrew. Ooh, that helps. Nice. Now, on the S series, it doesn't list out our background names. It's going to give you the various categories. So stuff like exciting or basic or danceable. And you just have to go into the screen and touch one, and then it'll pop up at the top what the detail of that background is. So you can know what the name is, know what to write in your music to find it in the future. On the A series all the way through to the Prestige, it will show you all the backgrounds with their names except for the very first one. So you just have to go and press your variation button, and then you can see what that first one is. But everything from the Sterling and up, so all the E-Series instruments with touchscreens, they have every single background listed on the screen, so even that very first one. So if you were on a Prestige, Easy 4.4 would be hidden on this page. It would just be your very first one. Honestly, the button that I probably press the most on any instrument I'm on is custom number 4. We're going to skip around a little bit. Custom number 4 is awesome. It brings up everything that's in your 1 through 10 setup buttons. So I don't have to do the guesswork and go push each one to see what's inside of it. Now, if you're on an SU instrument, they're going to also give you the categories on there, not exactly the detailed sound that's in there. So you will have to kind of experiment and see what you like, but it's a great way to learn the pattern these buttons follow, because they do follow a pattern if you didn't know. I have a cheat sheet. I went and wrote it down. Number 1 is easiest. It's your smallest sound. It often doesn't come with drums. Number 2 will give you something called a little more. So that's what you'd probably imagine it to be, a little more than the easiest. Now, both of those turn off Orc Plus, so beware of that. If you want your Orc Plus on in your background, but you want to use the sound in 1 or 2, just go ahead, touch your Orc Plus wherever that might be on your instrument. Now, 3 organ sounds, 4 strings or strums, so you'd be getting violins, cellos, guitars, anything with strings. 5 is bells and whistles. In Latin, you'll often get vibes with that one. 6 is going to be a solo sound. 7 is going to be some kind of vocal sound. 8 will be a piano sound. And then as we're getting higher up here, we're getting more brought into our background as well. So we have a full ensemble sound in number 9. And by the time we get to 10, the S, we'll call that finale. So you can imagine what you'll be using that for. So custom number 5. If you come to group classes, you are probably pretty used to seeing what custom number 5 looks like. That's where we can see what our fingers are doing, whether it's one of our teachers or maybe another student playing. Now, you might think, how can I utilize that at home? Here's a really awesome trick. If you know how to record yourself, if you play back your recording of yourself, you can watch where your fingers were hitting on the keys and watch yourself and listen along and use that as a learning tool. My favorite learning tool with this is actually if you get with your teacher or your PA, they'll record the song for you if you have a stick or a disc, and then you can take that home, plug it in, and watch exactly how your teacher did it. So that's a huge tool for you. If you have just one spot of a song that's really giving you trouble with how those notes get worked out, you can follow along with their fingers. So if that's something that interests you, get with your teacher. Custom number 2. You're probably not going to touch this one too much, unless you really like organ sounds, which a lot of people do. So this is where our drawbars are. If I switch over to organ, you can see them change as I pick different organ sounds. So I'm not going to get too into detail on that one today, but if you like organ sounds, get with your PA. They'll be able to help you on that one. And then custom number 3. Custom number 3 is our foot switches and our touch bars that we can program to next preset. Now, I only have used this a little bit when I'm doing a particularly detailed arrangement where I have a lot of my banks filled up with different presets. And it can be a little tricky, and if you're not used to using it, just make sure when you do practice it that you turn it off after, because it will shoot you through to your next preset. But if I select this right here that says include banks, what that'll even do is I can fill up as many of my lettered banks. On this one I have A through E. It'll, as soon as I get from number 1 to number 2 to number 3, when I tap my kick switch, I prefer it on the kick switch personally. Once I get to all the way to number 10, it'll switch me into my B bank. So you can fill up as many as you want. Make all these complicated arrangements till your heart's content, because it's a lot of fun. And it's a great way to free up your hands so that you can change sounds. And even if you're not changing sounds, you can change little parts of your background. Have one where the orc plus is off, and then the next one brings it back in. Or maybe you switch the bass pattern or kick on alter style. Now, something else that we can use this for, if I hit my forward page once I'm on Custom 3, that's where it brings my keyboard split set. Some people like to have their split on the bottom keyboard moved over just to where's comfortable for them. So if you've ever wondered a really quick way to get to that, Custom number 3, forward 1 page. That's where you're going to find that. Does anyone know why they're called custom buttons? You can go ahead and unmute and answer if you know. I will let you in on a secret.
Because you can change them.
Exactly. They are called custom buttons because you can customize them to whatever you want. So I like leaving them default. I think they're pretty good where they're at. But you know that number 2 with our drawbars, since not many people use that, you might want to set that to something that you use very frequently in your feature menu. So again, if you're interested in more of that, I would check out Robert's whole workshop that he did just on those custom buttons, because there is a lot to learn from them. A lot of different features and a lot of different ease of life tools in our daily playing that can just make us have more fun. Does anyone have any questions about the custom buttons?
Miranda, I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Yeah.
Like you said about custom 2, I actually found a way of, you know how we all load our song setups custom, like maybe you did a song setup or Don did one or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did is I actually pulled that up, like load USB port, load song setups, and then I hit memorize, custom 2, memorize.
Awesome.
And it actually, so you don't have to keep on hitting load setups, and that's what I use custom 2 for. It's just a suggestion for anybody who wants to try it.
That is one of the best things that you can reprogram that one too, in my mind. It like I said, it's ease of life. It saves us button presses so that when we're sitting here playing, we want to enjoy our time playing. And, every couple times we can save ourselves a button press, it's maybe one extra song we get to play in the time we have to practice. So that's great. I'm glad you're doing that. All right. My next little bit that I wanted to move on to was, honestly, I think, maybe aside from Custom 4, what I use the most in my playing, which is, and it should pop up here on the screen, our keypad. Now, if you have an SU instrument, we have our numerical keypad. And then if you have anything prestige or later, you're going to also get the alphabet keypad. So just like a phone, if I want the F, I just have to hit that key 3 times and then I get my F. Now, if you have the ARIA specifically, they were able to add the whole QWERTY keyboard. So that makes it easier for, renaming your songs that you've recorded and everything like that. But what I'm using my alphabet keyboard for more than anything is these 2 red buttons. And I want to explain the difference between them. On our left, we have song setup. On the right, we have style list. So style list is for when we know the name of the background we're looking for. So let's say I'm about to play a jazz song medley. I really like using the background Smoky Lounge for that because it's a very nice, basic, just casual, classy jazz background. But that's all the way in the S's, so that's going to take me a while to scroll to. So I'm going to go to my S, I'm going to touch Style List, and that shoots me directly to alphabetically all the S's in the instrument. Whether they're in rock or waltz or big band, they're all here in one list. And there we are with my Smoky Lounge. So now I'm all set up to play my medley of whatever songs using Smoky Lounge. But what if I know exactly what song I want to play, but not what background I'm going to use? That's when I'm going to hit Song Setup. So if I wanted to play Over the Rainbow, but I don't know what song, what background I'm going to be using for it, all I have to do is go to O, hit Song Setup, and scroll to Over the Rainbow. And then it sets up the whole instrument ready for me. Now let's talk about what we can do with that numeric keypad, because I'm sure you're all using your alphabet keypad if you have it. The numerical keypad is something that I've started using more and more. In all of your manuals, you have a list of all the sounds that we can program into our various geniuses around the instrument. So whether it's our orchestral or our solo genius for our right-hand sounds, I have a lower genius for all my lower sounds. I even have a genius for my golden harp. Now, off the top of my head, I know number 1 in the instrument sounds is our grand piano. So if I wanted to put a grand piano, per se, over here in my virtuoso, right now that is some kind of bells sound. So I'm going to type number 1, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to touch my genius button in my golden harp section. And now my virtuoso's a grand piano. And you can do that with any sound. Now, if you're on an SU instrument, they don't always show what number the sound is, but here, let me quick show you guys something. I'm going to switch over to the other side of the screen on the TV so you can see it. See how it says piano 9-foot grand, and then underneath it, it says sound number 1. On the A-series instruments and up, it will tell you right away what number sound it is. So if you find one you really, really like, you can write it down and know, okay, so if I just ever need this instrument, whatever it may be, I know what number it is. On the, we just discovered today that on some of the SU models, the Performer and the Stardust and the Palladium, you can tap the sound and it will show you what number it is, but it doesn't show you right away. And then on the some of the slightly older models, you'll need to go refer back to your book to figure out what sounds they are. But still, lots of different ways to find those numbers.
Miranda,
Yeah.
I have a question. Okay, so you go to the keypad.
Yes.
I have a grammar key. So you push one,
Mm-hmm.
and then you want to put it in your virtuoso. So what do you press to put it in a virtuoso?
Yeah, so the virtuoso button is in your golden harp section.
Right.
There is a genius button
I,
there. It's
I
called
don't,
sounds, though, in your instrument. So, because you have the E series, on yours it'll be on the left side. So when you see sounds over there in the golden harp section, you're going to have your number queued up in your keypad, and then you're going to go touch that sounds button, and it's automatically going to just go zoop right over it to exactly where you want.
okay. If I push sound on a golden harp, it gives me vibe sound number 40. So if I want to do the piano,
Press 1, and
yep,
then go and press sounds.
1, sound, yep,
And then you're set to go. It's as easy as that.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. If anyone has any more questions, Andrew has his teacher whiteboard stick, and he's found a way to reach the applause. All right, so now maybe we, for some reason, put our manual in a box. Maybe we moved recently and it's at the bottom of all this pile of boxes, and we don't want to get it out right now, but we still want to find a really specific sound. The way you can get to any sound, here, I'll switch the screen back again. I'm going to open my keypad. I'm going to go to the alphabet this time, if you have the alphabet. And maybe, let's see, I want to find the sitar sound. So I'm going to press S, and then I'm going to go over here to my orchestral genius. That's just the way I'll find it so we can show you guys. Take a look at my screen now. It shot me right over to the S's in all the sounds. So now all I have to do is highlight that. It'll turn blue. And I can scroll through all of my S's until I find exactly what I am looking for. There's all kinds of instruments in here, from all the Eastern countries, from throughout history. If I have thought of an instrument and looked for it in these instruments, I have found it. So if anyone has looked for an instrument and not found it, let me know, because I take it as a challenge at this point to find something they didn't program into here. Take a look through what you got, because you might have never heard some of these instruments in the backgrounds. So there's my sitar. Turn off that, so I just get this. Turn off these guys. Get all that fun twangy sound whenever you need it, just by going to your keypad, S, and putting it wherever you want it. I can put it in any of the geniuses or the sounds if you're on the E series. Let me see. I know I had something else cool to show you guys in this part with the keypad. Does anyone have any more questions about the keypad, whether it's the numeric keypad, the letter keypad, or how to place them anywhere in the instrument?
Yes, I do. So just what you did now. So you went to where did it go? You went to the keypad, and I want to look for a guitar.
Okay.
So I go to G.
Yep.
Okay, and then what?
So where are you trying to put the guitar? Do you want to play with it in your right hand? Are you trying to put it in your... Okay, so if you're trying to put it in your right hand,
Right.
over in your orchestral and solo section, what model instrument are you on?
Grammar key.
So you have an Orc 1 and an Orc 2 and a Solo 1 and a Solo 2 option. You can put it in any one of those.
Okay.
And then If you know about how to put one of those on the top or the bottom keyboard rather than the other, you just have to see. So like, take for instance what I'm looking at right here on mine. I just went and put mine in my ORC 1 button, and then I see that I have upper on for my ORC 1. So I was able to hear that on my top keyboard, and it's still there. But in your case, so I'm going to the keypad, I'm going to G, I'm going to touch my ORC 1 again. Now what that did is that brought up the very, very first guitar. You can see guitar 12 string is what it starts with. And now that is what's on my top keyboard. There are some strings coming from somewhere in here, but I'm not going to take the extra time to turn them off, but you can hear the guitar in there. Now, I highly recommend, if this is something you're curious about, set a session with your PA so that they can actually have your fingers touching the buttons while they guide you through it, because though it is really, really easy, it is one of those things that is a more occasionally advanced technique. So if it starts to confuse you, do not worry at all. It's something that we're very used to teaching, so just, call one of your PAs, set a session with them. They'll be able to explain it to you really easy and have you pushing the buttons while they explain it.
Okay, thank you.
I promise that makes it a lot easier when your fingers are the ones doing it. Any more questions? That was a really good question. All right. So we are going to move on now to controllers. Now, some of the smaller instruments do have some of the abilities here that we're going to talk about. Mostly if your instrument has bass pedals, you might have a beginner setting to kind of start doing this kind of stuff. But let's start by talking about what are the controllers and where are they? Does anyone know? All right, so our controllers are our two touch bars, left and right, our kick switches in the pedal, left and right, and our bass pedals are also controllers. Now, by default, our left touch bar is set to effects or fill. Our right touch bar, by default, is set to glide or sustain. We'll come back to that. Inversely to the touch bars, our kick switches are defaulted to the right kick switch being fill and the left kick switch being glide sustain. Now I know some folks, when they get touch bars, they don't worry about their kick switches, but if you're not using them all the time, why not set them to something that you might not use all the time? You can put all kinds of stuff in here. I'm going to talk about a couple of my favorites in a minute. Now, the other thing that we can set is our bass pedals. And those are classified as natural, which are the long ones, and black, which are the short ones. So we can set them to either two different things or the same thing. If you're like me, I tend to set them to the same thing because if I miss, I know I'm going to get it. So back to this right touch bar. When it's set to glide sustain, if we have an instrument that we're trying to glide, which here, let me pop up an instrument that we can glide. Use my custom 4 so I can get to my sounds faster. Here, woodwinds. Or maybe I already turned off my touch bar while I was prepping for this. If you go to page 9 in your feature menu, so if you touch your feature clear button and then you go to page 9, which you can't see it at the top of my TV, it cut off a little bit. You get, switch my screen for you. There we go. Here is page 9. Touch bars, foot switches, and pedal natural black. Those 3 ones that I just listed off. So let's see what ended up in my touch bars. Oh no, it's there. But let's look through some of the stuff we can change that to. Since I'm not using my glide sustain on my right touch bar, I can make it another effects if I want. That might make it a little easier if maybe my right hand is less busy than my left hand on any given moment. I can come and touch that to make my fill happen. Tap tempo. This is a favorite of mine. I do a lot of playing along with the track while I'm learning a song. So if I'm trying to match the tempo of the track I'm playing along with, all I have to do is touch my touch bar in time with their rhythm to get my metronome matched up to theirs. So since I'm not going to be touching it mid-song, it's not going to mess me up. I highly recommend, if you are a play with the song while you practice type of person, this is going to become your new best friend. I have start stop. I even have transpose up. If you like to add transposes to your music to lift it up, you might be able to find the time to quick touch your right touch bar rather than looking around for where your transposer is on your instrument. This is especially useful in my mind if you're deciding to play for the class and you might be playing on a different model than what you're used to. You know, if you have a Stardust and the model that you're using for class is a symphony, you may get just a teensy bit lost in that moment where you're in the music and you're paying attention to that and you didn't plan, oh, I need to find my button first. You could go set transpose over here, so you only have to touch this rather than looking for the button. Lots of little ease of life features. That's what we're talking about today. We've got increased tempo, decreased tempo. We've all heard songs before where they get really into the music for a moment and they start speeding up and then they bring it back down. So you could set your kick switches to faster on the right and slower on the left, or decrease tempo on your right touch bar so that when you get to the point in the song where you're slowing down at the end, you can slowly decrease your tempo and retardando out with them. I can also set intro ending 1 and 2 to any of my controllers. Another great tool. If I know I'm going to be using intro 1 for a bunch of songs, maybe I'm doing a whole concert of the signature backgrounds with the signature intros and endings. Well, then I can set intro 1, because that's always going to be our signature intro or our signature ending, to my right touch bar. So when I'm done, all I have to do is touch that rather than going up here and touching a button. Fade in or fade out, that's another one of our options. I will tell you, if you switch any of these for your class, let your teacher know. You don't have to reset them yourself, but we had a one time in class where someone came up to play. They had set fade out to the right kick switch. So whenever someone went to do their fill with the right kick switch, it started fading out their song, and then they'd do it again and it would fade it back in. So just warn someone if you make changes to your controllers. It's really easy to reset back to the default, but you don't want to pull a prank on someone. And then there's also an option for no function. If you're afraid of accidentally touching them, or maybe you really just don't want to use those kick switches, but you're tired of accidentally bumping them and holding your fill down forever, you can put no function on there so they don't do anything. I recommend trying new things, but if really it's just giving you trouble, don't worry, there is a no function option for you. Does anyone have any questions about touch bars or kick switches or any of these controllers as of yet? All right. So our last controller is our pedal natural black. Now, a lot of people like to put their fill on these too. I think that's a great tool. Right now, I have both my natural and my black set to stop start. Like I said, I set them to the same thing because I tend to miss, and I don't want to accidentally make a mistake in the middle of my song. Ooh, we got people still coming in. All right. Now, if you're using your pedals as controllers, there's two things you're going to want to do. You're going to want to make sure if you have a button that turns off your pedals, that you do, on the Symphony here, it's called pedals off. I want that button not lit. That means my bass pedals are currently bass pedals. But if I want to change them from bass pedals, I have to go press this button right here. Pedal controllers off. I want that to say pedal controllers on. And here, let me change that to something. For the heck of it, let's use transpose up. That's enough of that. I won't make you listen to that. but that's a good way to show off what we're doing. All right, so I'm putting start stop on both. Did you notice how I missed it the first time and I started having something else play? So that's, if you don't take home anything else, if you keep missing your right pedal, just put it on both. All right. Oh yeah, this one's just for fun. I'm going to do it with my kick switches because we haven't looked at them too much. I love the fact that in here, and you can see there's all kinds of stuff. I can make my chord a seventh or a diminished or all these different musical things. And then they put light show in there. So if you are doing your big patriotic finale concert, why not end it with putting the light show on one of your kick switches you may not be using, and then all of a sudden the light show comes up at the very end of your performance. Just a little fun trick. You'll really get to tell your friends that you have the mind control powers when you do that. And then if I want to turn it off, just tap it again. Put that back to fill. So these are a bunch of features that at first can seem really, really complicated. But the more you do it, the more you're pressing the buttons, the more you're going into your feature menu and exploring and seeing what you have, the more you're going to discover is there for you to actually make your life easier and less complicated. A lot of people think, oh, that's too complicated for me. I can't do that. But you can. I promise you can. With the help of us here on Zoom, with the help of your PA, and all the stuff you're learning in class, I know you can put all these tips and tricks together to make your playing just that much more fun. Now, I have created an arrangement of a song today that is going to be kind of including a lot of what we just talked about. So we're going to go back through some of those things step by step. I'm actually going to do a whole reset on the instrument just so I can show you how quickly I can do all of these things. What we're going to be including is going into our keypad. I'm going to be taking the piano and I'm going to be putting that in my lower genius so that when I have my start stop on my pedals, what that'll do is it'll bring up just what a lot of my students call the hum. So I'm replacing that hum with the grand piano. So let's start. Feature menu. First, put my screen on so you can see what I'm doing. Feature menu. Controller page, which is number 9. Pedal, natural black. I'm putting them all on start stop. And then I'm turning my controllers on so I don't get going and then realize I forgot to turn that button on. Alright, so we're going to grab our background. I'm using Easy44 for this one. I think it sounds the best. I'm going to go into my custom number 4 to see what all my sounds are in here. Number 8 looks nice. Piano and electric piano. I'll take that. Alright, that's all still good. Now, we're going into our keypad. I'm grabbing number 1. That's number 11. Clear all. Number 1. Lower genius on this instrument, it's a tab. I'm going to touch that, and that in my screen, you can't see it from here, popped up that it indeed worked. Piano, 9-foot grand, is now in my lower genius. For good measure, I know Easy4's lower has some extra string tabs added, so I'm going to turn those off because I just want the piano. Make sure I'm not forgetting anything in my arrangement here. I'm also going to, for my arrangement, just start off by turning off my Orc Plus We're going to bring it back later. And I'm also going to turn off my bass. We'll bring it back later. One of the reasons I'm turning off my bass is because when I'm using just the lower sound with the piano dissipates like a real piano does. Once it strikes the string, that sound can only reverberate for so long. When I have the bass on, that bass player is playing a constant bass note, and he doesn't fade away like the piano. So we're going to take him away while I'm using my start-stop part. All right, and I think I'm all set. Let me make sure my volume's good there. All right. Oh, hey, and Robert, I don't know if you're here. I don't know if you wanted to say anything, but we are going to actually be wrapping up this workshop soon. So before I play my finale song, does anyone have any questions? Whenever I ask that, the Jeopardy theme song plays in my head. All right. And I don't know if Robert did have any words he wanted to say. But I did want to mention to everyone, if you're not signed up for next week's Swing into Spring events, you better do it quick because we're filling up here at Osprey, and I know everybody else is too. If you see my little yellow flower, we are getting very ready for our spring shindig, so don't miss out. All right, everyone ready to hear the final product of changing our controllers to start-stop, putting piano in our lower genius, and playing around with some of our Orc Plus and style controls? I'll take your silence as a yes. Waiting with bated breath. I'm going to play a song today written by Graham Nash that starts out with just that simple piano in the beginning, and then the whole band kicks in, and then it ends just the way it began. So that's why we're doing our start-stop on our pedals. All right, we're in action. Ooh, that's really loud for me. Brought my bass back in. Do you see how having that start-stop on the pedals gave me the ability at the very beginning and the very end to slow down where I wanted to just with that easy button, kicked in the whole band, and then brought them away just at the right time. So I hope you liked that arrangement. If you have any questions about that, I'm more than happy to answer any of them.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Very
Again, that was the song was Our House by Graham Nash from Crosby, Stills and Nash. All right.
Thank you, Miranda.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Robert told me keep it about 45 minutes, and it is exactly 3:45 right now, so I'm going to pat myself on the back for timing that out really well.
Actually, you need to go a little longer because you got to at least close it off with a song.
I just closed it off with a song. I said, do you
I
want to
mean,
say
another
anything?
song.
All right.
Pressure.
That's the perk of having all the songs. You want
Then
to
you'll be
hear a
able to
rock
give
and roll
yourself 2
song?
pats on the back.
What was that?
Then you'll be able to give yourself 2 pats on the back.
2 pats on the back, 1 with each hand.
1 for each song. Yep.
Ooh, I know what I want to play. I'm going to play a Beatles song. Does that sound good to you?
Yep. I love the
All
Beatles.
right.
That sounds awesome.
I'm always down to hear some Beatles. I'm going to go over to March Polka, and I'm going to get my Obladi Polka because that one's my favorite. Let's see, what do I want? I think I'm going to use my 0 slot for the vocal duet and the 2 saxes, the signature sound for Obladi Oblada Polka. Gotta get the laughs. Well, thank you all so much for joining me today. I really, really enjoy teaching, and every time that I teach, I learn something myself, which is really, really cool. So I recommend you guys go teach your friends that don't do this how to do it, because I bet you'll learn how to do this in the process of teaching them how to do it.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
How big is that monitor that you're using? And secondly, I got in late. I'm sorry. Is there a quick? Have you got a quick summary on how you did the music?
Are you talking about, so when you say by monitor, are you talking about the TV up here? Or are you
Yes.
talking about,
Yes.
so, the size of that, oh, I don't know, that's probably about a yard stick wide and maybe 2 feet tall. It was a secondhand TV that had aux inputs on it, because you can connect an auxiliary video cable to the back of the instrument into a TV if the TV still has that auxiliary input. A lot of them these days don't. So keep an eye out for that if you're going to Goodwill and buying a TV just for this purpose. Though it's great if you like to perform concerts for your friends. I highly recommend setting it up just like I have on the back of the instrument. You take that back rack off and it fits right on top. Now, for setting up the song, what we worked on a lot today was we talked about our custom buttons, which I recommended that if anyone's really curious about those custom buttons, they go watch Robert's workshop he did a couple months ago on YouTube. We talked about our controllers, our touch bars, our kick switches, and our pedals, and how to change them to something that we may use more.
Yeah.
If you're not using your bass pedals, why not put something that you will use on them? And we also talked about, gosh, what did we talk about, everyone? Oh, we talked about our keypad and how to navigate our keypad using either the alphabet or the numbers. Now, I will say, I'm sorry you were late, but I know Robert hit record at the beginning of this, so in just a couple days' time, I think this will be right up on YouTube so you can catch the whole thing in detail.
Oh, that'd be great. How about that smaller monitor that you had up there? What was that?
That is my tablet. This is what I read my music off of.
And what software were you using?
I use an Apple iPad.
I know the software for the music.
Hal Leonard has an app with all the Easy Play music we use in it. It's called Sheet Music Direct. I pay for it yearly. I think I pay $100 a year for it. So I think that's a pretty good deal considering I'm not buying a book every week.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anyone else have any questions before we sign off?
Enjoyed it. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, that sounded like Bob. Hi,
Yes.
Bob.
Hi.
All right, everyone.
For
Well, thank you so
For some
much.
reason, my picture doesn't work.
All good. If I didn't have to have my video on to do it, I wouldn't either. But thank you all so much for enjoying. I will see you on the next one.
Okay, bye-bye.